Hey everyone, Andrew back again and welcome to another video. In today's video I'm back with another top 20 for 2020 list, and this time around it is my top 20 90s horror movies. This was created by Jason and Joe, and if you're not already subscribed to them I will leave links to both of their channels in the description box below. But with that being said, let's get on with my top 20 90s horror movies. Coming in at number 20 we have Brain Scan with Edward Furlong. To me this is a bit of a 90s nostalgia trip because this is one that I definitely watched a lot back in the 90s and I still really enjoy it. Really enjoy this one. Sure, some of the computer effects are a little bit dated by today's standards, but to me it definitely has that nostalgia. So coming in at number 20 is Brain Scan. Coming in at number 19 we have Ticks, and again kind of like Brain Scan, this is one that I definitely grew up on during the 90s. I'd rent this one out quite a bit. This one stars Seth Green and this is a fantastic creature feature with mutated killer ticks in it. Really cool. I always enjoy the setting within this movie too, so love this one. That is Ticks. Coming in at number 17 we have Event Horizon, and this probably deserves to be higher on the list. However, a lot of my rankings was really based on nostalgia and how much I actually watched these films during the 90s. So with that being said, I've put Event Horizon at number 18, but by no means does that mean that this is a bad film. This is an absolutely amazing sci-fi horror starring Lawrence Fishburne and Sam Neill. Absolutely incredible film. That's Event Horizon. Coming in at number 17 we have The Frighteners, Peter Jackson movie, and this one definitely means quite a bit to me because this was actually filmed in my hometown. Where I grew up over in New Zealand. It was filmed in one of the suburbs over there and it was a pretty big deal. I can definitely remember when filming was taking place. So this movie definitely means a lot to me and I think it's an absolutely fantastic mid-90s horror movie. Really good stuff. So that is The Frighteners. Coming in at number 16 is The Faculty, and this one came to mind immediately when I was coming up with this list because to me this is one of those true 90s horror classics in my opinion. This was another favourite of mine during the 90s. Got a very 90s cast, even the covers got that typical 90s horror cover and poster art to it. This is a great movie. This is one that I can watch over and over and still really enjoy it no matter how many times I watch it. It's got a really cool sort of invasion of the body snatchers style storyline, and yeah, this one's a lot of fun. So that's The Faculty. Coming in at number 15 we have the Night of the Living Dead remake, and I actually prefer this remake over the original. I think what Tom Savini did with this movie was absolutely fantastic and great effects too. But yeah, this one is awesome. Love Night of the Living Dead remake a lot, so that one sits at number 15. Coming in at number 14 we have Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, and this is one of my favourite horror anthologies. I've always really enjoyed this one, especially the wraparound story. I really like that part of the film, but this one has some great short stories. I like all of them, and yeah, definitely one of my favourite horror anthologies. So that's Tales from the Dark Side. Coming in at number 13, I do not know where my copy of this movie is, but it is Pet Sematary 2. This was another one like The Faculty that came to mind immediately when I was coming up with my list for 90s horror. Another one that I absolutely loved back in the day. I still really enjoy it. It's kind of a different toned movie than the original film, but I think it's just as good. I've always enjoyed this one just as much as the original, honestly, and yeah, I think it's really, really awesome. So that's Pet Sematary 2. Coming in at number 12, we have Hocus Pocus, and this was definitely a favourite of mine growing up, and I still really, really enjoy this one a lot. It's a childhood classic for sure. Great Halloween vibe to it, great cast of characters as well, and just a really, really fun movie, so I definitely had to put Hocus Pocus on the list. Coming in at number 11 is Lake Placid, and this was a pretty easy pick for me. I knew this would be somewhere on the list, and it made number 11, which is pretty good. This is not only one of my favourite 90s creature features, but one of my favourite creature features in general. I think this movie is awesome. So yeah, that's Lake Placid. Alright, so now we're down to my top 10. So coming in at number 10 is Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight. And this is a relatively new watch. I believe I watched this for the first time last year, and it immediately became one of my favourites. Thanks to Craig for recommending this to me. This movie is awesome. It's definitely got that 90s vibe to it. It's got some absolutely fantastic atmosphere. I love the setting, some great imagery within this movie too. All round, this is just such an awesome, awesome film. So yeah, Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight at number 10. Coming in at number 9 is Leprechaun, and the Leprechaun franchise overall is something that I'm also relatively new to, but this movie, as soon as I watched it, it immediately became an all-time favourite of mine, especially from the 90s era. Now, you guys know I'm not normally a big fan of comedy when it comes to horror, but this one works. Warwick Davis was absolutely fantastic as the role of Leprechaun. There's some really, really fun and creative kills within this film. I kind of like the storyline about the Leprechaun trying to retrieve his gold. I think that's pretty awesome. And I also love the fact that there's not just one final character within the film. I think the main cast within this movie, how they all band together to try and defeat the Leprechaun, is really, really awesome. So, awesome movie. Love this one a lot. That is Leprechaun. Coming in at number 9 is The People Under the Stairs. Coming in at number 8 is The People Under the Stairs, and this was another one that I knew would make my 90s list for sure. It's another one that, yet again, I used to rent quite a lot back in the day, and I really, really have always really enjoyed this one. I think it is a pretty underrated movie, especially when it comes to the Wes Craven films. But yeah, what can I say about this one? I'm sure this one, everyone is well familiar with this one, especially from the 90s era. People Under the Stairs, I love the concept of this one, how it's kind of a almost reverse style home invasion film, but awesome, awesome movie, People Under the Stairs. Coming in at number 7 is Dead Alive or Brain Dead. This was another no-brainer for the 90s list, and yeah, it's made this spot. Love, love, love this movie. Coming from New Zealand, this is definitely a New Zealand or Kiwi classic. Peter Jackson directed this movie, obviously, and what can I say? Absolutely phenomenal movie. I love the use of the miniatures within this film. It's fun, it blends in comedy with horror really, really well. And there's some absolutely iconic scenes within this film. Everyone knows the overly gory ending with the lawnmower. Awesome, awesome stuff. Very, very memorable. So yeah, that's Dead Alive or Brain Dead. Coming in at number 6, we have From Dusk Till Dawn. And this is a phenomenal film. It's not only one of my favourites from the 90s, but one of my favourites in general. And I really love the fact that this almost feels like two completely different films. So obviously at the beginning you kind of have the whole family hostage situation type of movie, and then of course it turns into a vampire horror film during the second half of the film, which I absolutely love. I think both blend in extremely well. This has a phenomenal cast of characters, and yeah, this has always been one of my favourites, so that's From Dusk Till Dawn. Coming in at number 5 we have Cube, and I actually forgot this was a 90s movie. It wasn't really until I was going through my collection that, yeah, this is definitely a 90s horror film and definitely one of my favourites. I love the execution of this film, and it was kind of one of the first movies to bring us the whole sort of idea of the kind of trap genre, I guess, when it comes to horror films. I love how smart and intelligent this movie is. It just doesn't really rely on over-the-top gore. It definitely makes you think a lot. I like how diverse the cast of characters are within this film, how they all kind of have to work together to figure out what was going on. The ending, I like the ending a lot as well. This has some absolutely fantastic traps within the film too, and I love the setting. So yeah, that's Cube. Coming in at number 4 we have Children of the Corn 2, The Final Sacrifice. And I'm sure you guys are pretty familiar by now because I've said it quite a bit. I grew up on this franchise during the 90s. It definitely played a massive role in my horror history, I guess, back then. Especially during high school, me and my friends would rent the Children of the Corn movies out constantly. And I definitely have a very, very soft spot for this franchise, even though I'm well aware that a lot of the sequels aren't the greatest. But I personally think that Children of the Corn 2 is a fantastic follow-up to the original. I love the fact especially that more Corn kids do the killings within part 2. You definitely see a little bit more of the cult. It kind of focuses a little bit less on just the leaders this time around, which I think is awesome. This one definitely upped the kill count, which I always like. The wheelchair kill's awesome. I love the scene in the church where the guy's nosebleed kills him. Fantastic stuff. Yeah, this is a great movie. Children of the Corn 2. Coming in at number 3 is Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. I had to put a Halloween movie on this list. It was kind of a no-brainer that I would do that. And Halloween 6 being my favourite from the 90s era, it made the list. I love this movie. It's definitely grown on me since I first watched it, and it's now cemented its place very, very solidly as one of my favourite Halloween sequels within the franchise. I love the colour tone within this movie. I love how brutal Michael is within this film, and I absolutely love the mask. So yeah, that's Halloween 6, or Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. Coming in at number 2 is Candyman, and I have a bit of an interesting history with this movie because the first time I watched it, for some reason, I don't know why, I didn't like it. But I actually rewatched this as one of the Slashback review challenges last year and absolutely loved it. This one blew me away. Definitely one of my all-time favourite slasher films. I love the housing project setting at Cabrini Green. Tony Todd as Candyman, absolutely incredible. I love the storyline within this film. It's a pretty interesting take on the slasher genre, and it works so well. I just love the whole mytho behind the Candyman character. Absolutely incredible. So yeah, Candyman at number 2. Coming in at number 1, probably no surprise to anyone. Yep, my favourite 90s horror film is definitely Child's Play 2. This was another staple of my horror history. In fact, this franchise is what really kickstarted my love for horror films. The original Child's Play was the first horror film that I ever saw. This was the very first cover that I was attracted to when I used to browse the horror section. So this movie means so much to me. It's also my favourite within the Child's Play franchise, and it also has one of my favourite endings in horror. The showdown in the toy factory, I think, is absolutely fantastic. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this one because everyone is very, very familiar with Child's Play 2, but yeah, I love this one. It is amazing, and it's definitely my favourite 90s horror film. Okay, so there you go. That was my top 20 90s horror films. Let me know what you think of these movies in the comment section below. I hope everyone's staying well and safe out there. Once again, if you're not already subscribed to Jason and Joe's channels, links will be in the description box below. And thank you for watching.